My sister's perfect wedding day was about to begin, but a chance encounter and a cryptic gift gave me the power to see a horrifying truth about her groom. It was a truth that forced me to choose between her happiness and her safety. The universe has a twisted sense of humor. It proves this by making sure that the most important day of your sister's life is the one where your entire world decides to spectacularly implode. For me, that implosion started with a single thread on a bridesmaid dress I'd paid way too much for. The strap, a delicate little thing of silk and lace, snapped as I was wrestling with my car keys. I stared at my reflection in the car window, a panicked, wild-eyed woman holding a piece of useless fabric, and knew I was officially, irrevocably late. My sister Anna is a planner. Her life is a series of color-coded binders and perfectly executed timelines. Her wedding day was scheduled down to the minute, from the pre-ceremony mimosa toast to the post-reception sparkler send-off. My role as maid of honor was simple: show up on time, look pretty, and don't cause a scene. I was already failing on 2 out of 3 counts. After a frantic 10 minutes with a travel sewing kit I found in the glove compartment, the strap was crudely reattached, and I was speeding towards the city registry office, my heart hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird. I sent Anna a breathless text. "Traffic is a nightmare. Almost there. You look beautiful, I'm sure." A lie, of course. The traffic was fine. I was the nightmare. I screeched into a parking spot 2 blocks away and ran, my heels sinking into the soft asphalt and making me stumble. The registry office was a soulless concrete block of a building, the kind of place where joy goes to be filed in triplicate. I was breathless by the time I reached the grand, imposing steps, fumbling in my purse for my phone to check the time. I was 20 minutes late. Anna was going to kill me. As my fingers frantically searched for the phone, my purse tipped, and a cascade of loose change spilled out, skittering across the grimy pavement with a series of bright, tinny clicks. "Oh, for crying out loud," I muttered, dropping to my knees, my ridiculously expensive dress pooling in a puddle of something I didn't want to identify. That's when I saw her. She was sitting on the low wall bordering the steps, almost camouflaged by the grayness of the building. An old Romani woman, her face a roadmap of wrinkles, wrapped in a kaleidoscope of mismatched scarves. Her eyes, dark and sharp, followed the trajectory of a rolling quarter. "Luck? Spilling from your hands, little bird," she said, her voice like gravel and honey. "You're in a great hurry to fly into a cage." Normally, I would have just gathered my things and moved on, but I was late, flustered, and a tiny, superstitious part of my brain, inherited from my grandmother, flared to life. Plus, she looked like she hadn't had a good meal in a week. I gave up on the scattered pennies and dimes and scooped up the bigger coins, a handful of quarters and a lone dollar coin. "Here," I said, pressing the coins into her cool, dry palm. "Sorry, it's all I have on me." She didn't look at the money. Her gaze was fixed on my face, intense and unsettling. Her fingers, surprisingly strong, closed around mine for a moment. "A kind heart in a storm," she whispered, her thumb brushing over my knuckles. "Kindness should be rewarded. I don't have silver to give you, but I will give you a gift of sight." I tried to pull my hand back, a nervous laugh bubbling in my throat. "Oh, that's not necessary. I just need to—" "Hush." Her eyes bored into mine, and for a second the bustling city street around us seemed to fade away. "Today of all days you will need it. May you see the truth in the eyes of the one your sister loves." She released my hand and the spell was broken. She was just an old woman on a wall again. I mumbled a "thank you," my cheeks burning with embarrassment, and practically sprinted up the steps and into the building. The words were just the typical ramblings of a street person trying to earn a few extra coins, I told myself. A gift of sight, right. I found the right room just as the ceremony was beginning. Anna, bless her punctual soul, had waited. She shot me a look that was equal parts relief and fury, but it melted away as she turned back to her groom, Mark. She was breathtaking. The simple white dress, the way her hair was pinned up with tiny pearls. She glowed. Mark, standing beside her, looked like the luckiest man alive. He was a good man, safe, reliable, everything Anna ever wanted. I slipped into my seat in the front row, my breathing finally evening out. The registrar, a woman with a severe haircut and a monotone voice, droned on about the legalities of marriage. I watched my sister, my beautiful, perfect sister, on the verge of getting her happily ever after. I felt a surge of love and relief so strong it almost brought tears to my eyes. The old woman and her strange words were completely forgotten, until the registrar got to the big question. If there is any person here present who knows of any lawful impediment to this marriage, they should declare it now. It was a formality, a line from an old movie. The room was silent. I smiled, looking at Anna. Her face was tilted up towards Mark, a radiant, joyful smile plastered on her face. And then it happened. The old woman's words echoed in my head. May you see the truth. For a split second, the image flickered. It was like a filter had been lifted, a glamour had been stripped away. Behind Anna's brilliant smile, I saw it. A flash of something so cold and stark it stole the air from my lungs. It wasn't joy lighting up her face. It was pure, abject terror. Her eyes, which a moment ago seemed to be sparkling with love, were wide with a silent, desperate plea. My gaze snapped to Mark. He was beaming down at her, the perfect doting groom. But in his eyes, I didn't see love. I saw possession. I saw the cold, satisfied triumph of a hunter standing over a captured prize. I looked from my sister's terrified eyes to Mark's triumphant ones, and before I could stop myself, I was on my feet. The registrar's question hung in the stale air. A single word tore from my throat, echoing off the drab walls. Stop! The silence that followed my outburst was a physical thing, thick and suffocating. 100 pairs of eyes swung towards me, a sea of confused, annoyed, and scandalized faces. My sister's face, which had been a portrait of bridal bliss just seconds before, had crumbled into a mask of pure horror. Her mouth was a perfect O of disbelief. Beside her, Mark's smile hadn't vanished, but it had changed. It tightened at the corners, the warmth draining away, leaving something polished and hard like a porcelain mask. "Excuse me?" the registrar said, her voice dripping with professional disdain. "Did you say something?" My own voice felt trapped in my chest. What had I done? The vision, the flash of truth, was gone as quickly as it had come. Anna and Mark just looked like a normal, beautiful couple whose wedding I had just torpedoed. I'm sorry, I stammered, my hands clenching at my sides. I felt faint. It was a pathetic excuse, and no one bought it. Mark, ever the smooth operator, was the first to react. He put a comforting arm around Anna's shoulders and gave the registrar a charmingly apologetic smile. "So sorry about that, Beatrice. My sister-in-law-to-be is a little emotional. The long day, you know." He glanced at me, and his eyes were chips of ice. The message was clear. "Fix this, now." Anna turned her head slowly, her expression a mixture of deep hurt and white-hot fury. "Sarah," she hissed, her voice low and trembling. "Sit down." But I couldn't. The memory of that chilling image was seared onto the back of my eyelids, the terror in my sister's eyes, the predatory gleam in his. It felt more real than the solid floor beneath my feet. "Anna, we need to talk," I pleaded, taking a step forward. "We have nothing to talk about," Mark cut in, his voice still pleasant but with an undercurrent of steel. He was steering Anna away from the altar now, towards a small door at the side of the room. "Folks, if you'll just give us 5 minutes, a little family matter to resolve." The room erupted into whispers. I felt the weight of my parents' mortified stares from the second row. They ushered me into a small, windowless office that smelled of stale coffee and regret. The second the door clicked shut, Anna ripped herself out of Mark's grasp and rounded on me. What in the hell do you think you're doing?" she screeched, all pretense of composure gone. "Are you insane? You just humiliated me in front of everyone I have ever met." "There's something wrong with him, Anna," I said, my voice rising with desperation. "The way he was looking at you, it wasn't right." "The way he was looking at me?" she repeated, laughing a brittle, humorless laugh. "He was looking at me with love, because he loves me, something you clearly can't stand." "That wasn't love," I insisted, grabbing her arms. "You were scared. I saw it in your eyes. You were terrified." "Stop it!" She shoved me away, her chest heaving. "You're making things up because you're jealous. You've never liked him. You've never liked anyone I've dated. You just can't stand to see me happy." Through it all, Mark remained unnervingly calm. He leaned against a filing cabinet, watching us, his expression one of mild concern, like a doctor observing a particularly hysterical patient. "Honey, calm down," he said, his voice a soothing balm. "Sarah's obviously just stressed, planning this whole thing, the maid of honor duties. It's a lot of pressure. She probably just had a little panic attack." He was good. He was so good. He was twisting it, painting me as the unstable, jealous sister, and Anna was buying every single word. She was looking at me with pity now, which was somehow worse than the anger. "No," I said, shaking my head, looking from his placid face to my sister's tear-streaked one. "It wasn't a panic attack. It was what she said, the old woman." Anna stared at me. "What old woman?" "Sarah, you're not making any sense." "Outside," I said frantically. "The gypsy woman on the steps. I gave her some change, and she said she was giving me a gift to see the truth in his eyes." The moment the words left my mouth, I knew I'd made a colossal mistake. Anna's face went blank. Mark actually let out a small, condescending chuckle. I sounded completely unhinged. "A gypsy woman," Anna said flatly. "You ruined my wedding day because of a curse, or a blessing, or whatever, from some homeless woman you met on the street." "Anna, please, just listen to me," I begged. "No, I'm done listening," she snapped, wiping furiously at her eyes, trying not to smudge her perfect makeup. She took a deep breath, pulling herself together. Her gaze hardened. "You have two choices. You can walk out that door, apologize to our guests for your little scene, and sit quietly through the rest of my wedding. Or you can leave. Leave right now and don't bother coming to the reception." She looked at Mark, who gave her a supportive nod. "It's your choice." My heart shattered. She was choosing him. Of course she was choosing him. I was the crazy sister who was talking about curses from Romani women. He was the stable, loving fiancé. I looked at her, standing there in her beautiful white dress, ready to throw me out of her life. I looked at him, standing behind her, his hand now resting on her shoulder, a picture of supportive concern. And as my eyes met his over her shoulder, he let the mask slip for one infinitesimal second. He gave me the smallest, most triumphant of smiles. It was a victor's smile, a smile that said, "I've won. She's mine now." That tiny, silent gesture was all the confirmation I needed. My breath hitched. All the fight went out of me, replaced by a cold, creeping dread. I knew I couldn't explain what I saw. I couldn't fight him with logic. I only had one card left to play. It was the nuclear option, a memory we hadn't spoken about in over a decade. I locked eyes with my sister, my voice dropping to a near whisper, making sure only she could hear. "Anna, remember the cabin? The summer after high school? Remember what happened with Kevin?" Her face went pale, the color draining from her cheeks. Her body went rigid under Mark's hand. "The way his eyes looked right after he'd locked the door," I continued, my voice shaking. "The way he smiled when he saw you were scared? That's what I just saw in Mark's eyes, Anna. Exactly the same." The name hung in the air between us, a ghost we had both tried to bury for 15 years. Kevin. The charming older boy who had worked at the marina near our family cabin. The boy who had seemed so perfect, so attentive, until the day he wasn't. The memory was a scar on Anna's past, one she never touched, never acknowledged. The panic attack she'd had that night, the way she'd refused to go back to the cabin for years afterward, it was all filed away under teenage drama. But I remembered the truth. I remembered her terror. Mark's hand tightened on Anna's shoulder. "What's she talking about, honey? Who's Kevin?" His voice was still smooth, but I could hear a new, sharp edge to it. He was losing control of the narrative. Anna didn't answer him. She couldn't seem to tear her gaze away from mine. I saw a flicker of something behind her eyes. Not belief, not yet, but a dawning, horrified recognition. The carefully constructed walls around that memory were beginning to crack. She took a half step away from Mark, a small, involuntary movement, but it was enough. "You always do this, Sarah," she whispered. But the fire was gone from her voice. It was replaced by a tremor she couldn't hide. "You always find a way to spoil things." "Am I wrong?" I pressed, my voice still low. "Am I wrong about what you saw in Kevin's eyes that night? Tell me I'm wrong." She opened her mouth, then closed it. A single tear escaped and traced a path through her perfect foundation. She looked at Mark, truly looked at him, and for the first time I think she saw past the charming fiancé and saw the man I had seen at the altar. Mark must have seen the tide turning because his facade finally shattered. "That's enough," he snarled, dropping the concerned act entirely. "Anna, she's trying to manipulate you, dredging up some high school nonsense to ruin our day. We're getting married." He grabbed her arm, his fingers digging into the delicate lace of her sleeve. "Let's go." It was the worst possible thing he could have done. The physical contact, the tone of command, it was a perfect echo of that long-ago night at the cabin. Anna flinched violently and ripped her arm out of his grasp. "Don't," she breathed, her eyes wide. "Don't touch me. Anna!" Mark's face was turning an ugly, blotchy red. "Stop this foolishness and let's go finish the ceremony." "No," she said. The word was quiet, but it had the finality of a slamming door. She took another step back, moving closer to me. She was looking at him now as if seeing a stranger, the Romani woman's gift passing from me to her. She was seeing the truth, the possessiveness, the barely leashed anger, the cold triumph. It was all there, laid bare on his face now that he'd lost his composure. "After everything I've done for you," he spat. "The money I've spent, the way I've improved your life, you'd throw this all away because your crazy sister saw a ghost?" "She's not crazy," Anna said, her voice growing stronger. She reached out and took my hand, her fingers cold but firm. "She's my sister." She looked at me, her eyes conveying a universe of apology and gratitude. Then she turned back to Mark, her chin held high. "And it's over. Get out." The fallout was spectacular. Mark stormed out, making a scene that made my little outburst look like a polite cough. He shouted, he threatened, he called Anna every name under the sun, confirming for everyone in the hallway what I had seen in that fleeting vision. My parents, who had been on the verge of disowning me 10 minutes earlier, rushed to Anna's side, their faces etched with shock and dawning understanding. There was no wedding. We slipped out a back entrance while the registrar awkwardly dismissed the stunned guests. We spent what was supposed to be Anna's wedding night at my tiny apartment, eating takeout pizza on the floor in our fancy dresses. She cried for a while. Not for Mark, but for the dream she'd had, for the time she had wasted, for the fact that she had almost made the biggest mistake of her life. "You saw it, didn't you?" I asked gently, passing her a napkin. She nodded, staring into the pizza box. When he grabbed my arm, it was exactly the same. The look in his eyes. That smile. The one that says, "You're mine and you'll do what I say." I just buried it so deep. I convinced myself Kevin was just a boy and I was just being dramatic. "You weren't being dramatic," I said firmly, And you weren't today either. We didn't talk much more after that. We didn't need to. In the quiet of my living room, with the city lights twinkling outside, my sister and I stitched our relationship back together. The next day, we started the messy process of disentangling her life from Mark's. It was ugly and difficult, but with every canceled vendor and packed-up box, I could see the light returning to Anna's eyes. The terrified, trapped look was gone, replaced by a strength I hadn't seen in years. A week later, I found myself walking back towards the registry office. I wasn't sure why, just that I felt pulled there. I bought a bouquet of bright sunflowers from a street vendor and walked up the concrete steps. The old Romani woman wasn't there. I waited for a while, just sitting on the low wall where I'd first seen her. I didn't know if she'd ever be back, or if she was even a manifestation of my own subconscious screaming at me to pay attention. It didn't really matter. I left the sunflowers on the wall, a splash of brilliant yellow against the dull gray stone. As I turned to leave, a glint of metal caught my eye. Lying on the pavement, right where my coins had spilled, was a single shiny quarter. I smiled, picked it up, and tossed it into the air. Heads. A bit of luck spilling into my hands. It was a gift, and I knew with absolute certainty that this time I would hold on to it.